Dear Tim and Moby, my parents are both short, but I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall, and I'm only 13. What's going on? From Tyra. I bet there are some tall people somewhere in your family tree. We inherit our looks, height, size, and chemical makeup from our parents. That passing of traits from parents to offspring is known as heredity. But remember that parents inherit traits from their parents and so on as far back as your family tree can go. Let's look at some pea plants to see how it all works. Yes, pea plants. Every living thing inherits traits. Back in the 1800s, a monk named Gregor Mendel used pea plants to study how traits like height, color, and shape are inherited. When Mendel crossed short plants with tall plants, he noticed that only tall plants were produced. Whatever produced those short plants seemed to disappear. Mendel called that height trait the dominant factor because it dominated or covered up the short height form. He called the short height trait the recessive factor. By the second generation of pea plants, those recessive short plant forms cropped up again. After tons of research, Mendel was able to predict that 1 out of every 4 pea plants would be short. Now each plant has 2 genes that determine height. The tall gene, represented here by a capital T, is dominant, which means it only takes 1 of these genes to make a plant tall. It takes 2 short genes, represented by a lowercase t, to make a plant short. In the 19th century, a British geneticist named Reginald Punnett also experimented with peas and developed something called the Punnett square. Among other things, this Punnett square lets you predict what you would get if you crossed a tall plant with a short plant. An offspring gets 1 gene from each parent, either a tall gene or a short gene. Plants produced by these 2 plants will be tall because each one has 1 of these dominant tall genes. But what happens if 2 of these new plants produce offspring? Now there are lots of ways this could turn out, but the most likely result is that we get 3 tall plants and 1 short one. Mendel only figured this stuff out after carefully studying 30,000 individual pea plants over an 8-year period. Well, I guess it's pretty reasonable to assume that he had peas for dinner every night. I think you're missing the point. Moby? Moby!